Well, hold your horses, Buster, because I'm about to spoil the living shit out of Outer Wilds. If you haven't played the game, please go do that, and burn a marshmallow for me while you're at it, will ya? Outer Wilds has a lot of great mysteries and a lot of incredible locations filled with all this exciting lore and information. There's a towering superstructure inside the eye of a hurricane. A city dangles over a black hole in the center of a crumbling planet. There's that teleporting moon whose secrets extend far beyond the reach of the naked eye. But we're not going to talk about any of that stuff. We're here to talk about nothing.
Nothing?
Specifically, all the empty space in between the exciting stuff. The parts of Timber Hearth covered in nothing but trees and rivers. The cavernous, quiet emptiness of Dark Bramble. The dreadfully massive distance between islands on Giant Steep. All these places have two things in common. There's no content there, and no information will ever imply that you need to comb for hidden content there. But these places still serve a purpose. These empty areas actually teach us how the developers want us to approach our exploration without outright telling us. Now, when you pick up and play a game for the first time, you aren't automatically going to understand the design philosophy behind it or the rules that it follows. This is one of my favorite things about playing puzzle games in particular. What is expected of the player in Myst is different from what is expected of the player in Grim Fandango, or Secret of Monkey Island, or Outer Wilds. I love playing these games and trying to figure out how it is the developers want me to think through their worlds. It's a rewarding experience. Grim Fandango, for example, is a parody of 40s and 50s noir films like The Maltese Falcon or Key Largo, and the plots of noir movies from that era are famously convoluted and borderline nonsensical. Grim Fandango leans into that a lot, and as soon as I started pretending I was a detective in a bad noir movie, the absurd solutions to some of the puzzles came a lot easier to me. But I learned to think like that as I played, and I love that process. If a game were to outright tell you how to think, it would be robbing you of that incredibly satisfying aha moment that we're all chasing when we play these kinds of games. I think Myst and Outer Wilds are similar in that both developers wanted to create games that rewarded curiosity-driven exploration. They're both non-linear in their approach and kind of encourage players to play their own way. No quest markers, no intended order of exploration. Except, Myst sets up this expectation of no correct way to play, and then breaks its own rule during a puzzle that I do have an entire video about if you are curious. I don't want to spend any time on it here though, because by golly, that Myst video is long enough as it is, and this video is not about Myst, I think. So how does Outer Wilds teach us how it wants us to explore, and once it establishes its expectations, does it stick to them?
We really didn't want to have players sort of exploring every nook and cranny just in case we stashed a secret somewhere. Because this is supposed to be a game where you have questions and you're exploring very intentionally. We don't want you to explore like you're mowing the lawn and like, oh, I missed a spot. And so, again, it's fairly obvious, but here's the content. And here's like some grass and I guess like a river, but like there's just so clearly nothing there that of interest.
That was the lead game designer of Outer Wilds, Alex Beecham, giving a presentation on the game's core approach to design at Full Indie Summit in 2019, which is the same year the game officially released. His entire talk is a treasure trove of insights about how Mobius Digital approached its level design, but I wanted to highlight this particular moment for a few reasons. In 30 seconds, Beecham describes a thought process it took me way too long to realize when I played Outer Wilds. He says, "We don't want you to explore like you're mowing the lawn. This is supposed to be a game where you have questions, and you're exploring very intentionally." One of the earliest questions I had during my playthrough was, what's that plume of smoke on Timber Hearth? I went over there, I saw a strange seed, and I pointed my signaloscope at it. "Why can I hear the sound of a harmonica?" I asked. If you tell the Hearthian in the crater with you, they tell you there can't be a harmonica coming from the seed. The only harmonica player they know is an explorer named Feldspar. And it can't be Feldspar's harmonica because, well, Feldspar is somewhere on Dark Bramble. Curious. I did the last thing I really could do in this area, and I fired my scout into the seed. And now the game is telling me I have 2 scouts. One is in the seed, and one's over there on Dark Bramble. The scout is sending strange images. There's fog, twisted, gnarled roots. Is that a skeleton? I look up to the sky and point my signaloscope at Dark Bramble. This whole experience is what Outer Wilds is all about. The whole reason I went to Dark Bramble is because I was curious. The harmonica acted as a tether between the initial curiosity of the seed on Timberhearth and the total mystery of Dark Bramble. Now I have a reason to explore Dark Bramble, but I was never outright told to visit that location. Questions race through your mind as you approach the planet of Dark Bramble. Or is it even a planet? Your experiments with the seed taught you that space in Dark Bramble is probably not going to act normal. That seed was a lot bigger on the inside. And there's the matter of the scout saying it was in 2 locations at once. And there's the matter of the harmonica. The harmonica that first acted as a tether between 2 locations now acts as your tether into the unknown and towards, hopefully, a friendly face. That sound is all you have. There is nothing else but fog. Fog and those other strange lights in the distance. But the harmonica isn't coming from those lights. What else is out there? Well, the harmonica does lead to Feldspar, but surely there's other stuff occupying this massive place. Well, unfortunately for us, there is. But beyond the anglerfish, is there anything else here? Well, eventually you'll find Escape Pod 3, because the distress signal led you there. From there, you can spacewalk to the Nomai Grave, fire your scout into the seed, and use your scout signal to find the vessel. Great. Everything we've discovered so far is that some kind of tether that led us there. Feldspar and the harmonica, the escape pod and the distress signal, the vessel and the scout. But what else is out there? When I played Outer Wilds the first time, I needed to answer that question. I explored every nook and cranny of Dark Bramble because at a certain point I was stuck. I couldn't figure out how to get into the Ash Twin project, so I began mowing the lawn, essentially. I thought, well, all this empty space must be here for a reason. What I found, outside of the things that the game gave me some kind of audio or visual tether to, was absolutely fucking nothing. But in allowing me to explore an environment filled with emptiness, I learned that the game didn't actually expect me to play like that in order to progress. The game also never told me, outright, how it wanted me to play. This was that precious aha moment I referenced in the beginning of the video. I, through my own curiosity-driven exploration, was allowed the opportunity to comb through an essentially arbitrary location and learn from it. I explored every square inch of Dark Bramble, knowing I had no information telling me to do that. I learned the game was not going to expect me to mow the lawn like that because it didn't reward me for playing like that. If there's no curiosity pointing you to a place, there is nothing there. This is a rule that Outer Wilds never breaks. And thank God it doesn't, because there is nothing more frustrating than a game establishing a hard rule and then breaking it. I remember leaving the sunken city on Ember Twin through that tiny little crevice behind the gravity cannon, and immediately thinking, oh, there must be more openings like this on other planets. When I couldn't figure out how to properly enter the Ash Twin project, I wasted so many loops exploring the surface of Ash Twin looking for a similar crevice in the rocks. There isn't one, of course, because the game never leads you to come to that conclusion. The game, as a matter of fact, did not lead me to the crevice on Ember Twin either. I only found that after finding the sunken city the way the game sort of expects you to find it. You're never meant to stumble upon these tiny crevices, but once you know they're there, they become great shortcuts that you actually earned instead of randomly lucked into. Again, I wasn't expected to mow the lawn to find that information. I would never in a million years have a reason to check that random mound of rocks on Ember Twin with the expectation that it could lead to a major location. You'll find that crevice, but you don't need to mow the lawn for it. All we've done so far is explore the purely functional use of emptiness in Outer Wilds. There is also something to be said about how emptiness reinforces a sense of realism in the game. Planets are massive, and it makes sense that portions of each planet simply have nothing on them. Timber Hearth is this lush, green world covered in rivers and forests with one little village on it. It's nice that there's just some greenery there, and it makes the planet feel safe and cozy. The surface of Giants Deep needs to be mostly water and tornadoes to really sell the core idea of this storm-ridden ocean world. There's something so primally terrifying about landing on the water, having no idea what's under the surface and seeing nothing but tornadoes approaching you. I know there's nothing down there but jellyfish, but the sheer size of the planet and the lack of solid land makes the rational part of my brain shut down completely. If the planet was smaller or if there was more content covering its surface, I don't think its design would have been as effective. And holy shit, if you want to talk terrifying, well, Dark Bramble is the cream of the crop. It's a plant that's the size of a planet, and it's growing, and it sends seeds to other worlds that burrow into the ground and rip them apart. It's a predatory thing whose only purpose is to take up more and more space for itself. The inside of Dark Bramble is empty and uncaring, and way, way larger than it has any right to be. It feels like a wrong thing, and of course its only occupants are the dreaded anglerfish. The anglerfish, who, much like the space they inhabit, are predatory and way larger than they have any right to be. The emptiness of Dark Bramble is, I suppose, the most thematically potent emptiness in the game, because there really used to be a different planet where now there is just nothing. That feeling of just drowning in the cavernous silence of Dark Bramble speaks louder than words ever could. Now, I don't think every game needs to necessarily follow the exact design philosophy of Outer Wilds when it comes to its use of empty space. Every game is different, and the themes of every game are different. But I think a game that knows how to use even the space between content for functional and thematic purposes is going to stand out as something special. Shadow of the Colossus, Fallout, and Death Stranding are all examples of games who use the empty space between locations to reinforce the themes unique to those games. Shadow of the Colossus has us reflecting on our journey and our decisions for 90% of its runtime. Fallout has us living in the repercussions of mistakes made a long time ago as we traverse miles of dead radioactive wastes. Death Stranding is about something. And Outer Wilds uses empty space not only to create a sense of realism, but to show rather than tell players how their curiosity-driven exploration will be rewarded. And everybody plays differently too. That's what's so great about the many ways mysteries can unravel in Outer Wilds. How did you play? Were there any points where you did what I did and started mowing the lawn, or did you realize earlier on that there was just no point? Please let me know in the comments how you approached exploration and any major aha moments about the game's design you had. With that, thank you for tuning into the Crow's Nest, and I'll see you next time.